Hello, my friends. This time I am going to read another chapter from Volo's Guide to Monsters Deluxe. It's a chapter of the monster lore, and this is going to be about orcs. To feel the thunder of orcish war drums outside the gate and to hear a chorus of voices growling Grooms is the nightmare of every civilized place in the world. For no matter how thick its walls, skilled its archers, or brave its knights, few settlements have ever withstood a full-scale onslaught of orcs. Every soldier who lived through a fight with orcs tells of confronting a hulking foe that can cleave through a warrior with a single blow, part of a force that can cut down enemies as though they were trembling stalks of wheat before the scythe. Only a skilled and determined hero can hope to survive single combat with an orc. Savage and fearless, orc tribes are never in search of elves, dwarves, and humans to destroy. Motivated by the hatred of the civilized races of the world and their need to satisfy the demands of their deities, the orcs know that if they fight well and bring glory to their tribe, Grooms will call them home to the plain of Archeron. It is there in the afterlife where the chosen ones will join Grooms and his armies in their endless extraplanar battle for supremacy. Gods of the Orcs. Orcs believe their gods to be invincible. They see the principles that define them and their deities at work every day in the world around them. Nature rewards the strong and mercilessly eliminates the weak and the infirm. Orcs don't revere their gods as much as they fear them. Every tribe has superstitions about how to avert their wrath or bring their favor. This deep-seated uncertainty and fear comes forth in the form of savagery and relentlessness. As orcs ravage and kill to appease the gods in order to avoid their terrible retribution. At the pinnacle of the orc pantheon is Grooms One-Eye, who created the orcs and continues to direct their destiny. He is aided and abetted by the other warrior deities, Bagtru and Ilneval, who bring strength and cunning to the battlefield. The followers of all three gods are a tribe's raiders and ravagers, often the only part of an orc tribe that its victims ever see. Deep within the den of a tribe, far away from the war hearth, where warriors gather and celebrate, dwell the followers of Yurtrus, the god of disease and death, and Shargas, the god of darkness and the unknown. Orcs too weak for battle, because of bodily weakness, malformation, injury, or age, often join these cults instead of facing daily humiliation, exile, or death. Serving as the bridge between the two parts of the tribe are the priestesses of Lucic, the orc goddess who represents both life and the grave. It is her worshippers that raise young orcs to be warriors and then, at the end of their lives, take them to Yurtrus and Shargas to be carried into death and the great unknown. Grooms, he who watches. Grooms, the undisputed ruler of the orc pantheon, pushes his children to increase their numbers, so they may be his instrument of revenge against the realms of elves, humans, and dwarves. In order to spite the gods who spurred him, Grooms leads his orcs on a mission of ceaseless slaughter, fueled by an unending rage that seeks to lay waste to the civilized world and revel in its anguish. Orcs are naturally chaotic and unorganized, acting on their emotions and instincts rather than out of reason and logic. Only certain charismatic orcs, those who have been directly touched by the will and might of Grooms, have the capacity to control the other orcs in a tribe. Orcs don't become renowned in their tribes by choosing Grooms. He chooses them. An orc might claim its allegiance to Grooms, but only those who have proven themselves through feats of strength and ferocity in war are considered worthy and being true worshippers. Grooms singles out these individuals by bestowing upon each one a powerful dream or vision that signifies acceptance into his inner circle. Those who are visited by Grooms are transformed psychologically and often physically by the experience. Some are driven to the brink of madness, reduced to muttering about omens and prophecies, while others become imbued with supernatural power and rise to positions of leadership. Eyes of Grooms. A few of the orcs touched by the power of Grooms are given the ultimate honor of carrying a small part of the god's overwhelming rage into battle, in the form of magic that augments their weapons and helps the tribe succeed. To become an Eye of Grooms, an orc that has been chosen by Grooms must gouge out one of its eyes as a sign of devotion, sacrificing half of its mortal vision in return for divine power. These god-touched orcs are revered as living connections to Grooms and are treated with respect, even when they are old and infirm. Ilneval the War Maker. Ilneval is the loyal right hand of Grooms. He is the god who plans the attacks and devises the strategies that allow the forces of Grooms to dominate the battle and fill their war wagons with plunder and severed heads. Ilneval stands with his bloody sword, calling to those who understand the ebb and flow of combat to sit around his council fire and learn the ways of warfare. Skilled strategists. Orcs that show aptitude for the nuances of warfare at an early age are considered chosen by Ilneval and are groomed to serve as blades of Ilneval. These individuals are battle captains that follow the orders of the tribe's chief, leading a portion of the tribe's warriors into the thick of battle and bringing a measure of strategy to the assault. Blades of Ilneval are fearsome opponents, seeming to have an uncanny sense of when to move and when to strike, able to exploit the weakness of their enemy like a pack of hungry wolves. Back through the leg breaker. Despite the influence of Ilneval, orcs are and will forever be brutal and feral in how they wage war. Bagtru is the deity who epitomizes the physical might and ruthlessness that orcs use to overwhelm their foes. He is the one who drives every thrust of an orc's weapon so that it does as much harm as possible. Fearless and mighty. In the myth, it is said that Bagtru was out hunting when he was surprised by the mightiest of the Behirs, one with hundreds of legs. In a flash, Bagtru was wrapped in the creature's coils and gripped by its legs. No one had ever escaped the grasp of the Behir, but Bagtru saw this as an ultimate test of his strength and laughed at his good fortune. One by one, Bagtru broke the Behir's legs and freed himself from its clutches. The creature's shrieks became the lightning of the storm, and its broken femur became the symbol of Bactru's followers, reminding them that anything can be broken and defeated by superior strength. Competing in cruelty. Most young orcs that an explorer or an adventurer might encounter are followers of Bactru. Orcs of Bactru continually try to prove their superior strength and endurance through cruel contests against their tribe mates, acts of unprovoked belligerence, and great success in battle. It is through these tests of strength that Bactru's followers prove which among them will eventually be worthy of Grooms' unwavering gaze. The Sacred Bull. Orcs of Bactru sometimes enter battle astride aurochs, large creatures that resemble oxen or cattle but are much more ferocious. By doing so, they honor the creatures as well as their deity, because legends tell that Bactru also rode a great bull into battle. No orc will eat or harm one of these sacred beasts, which are believed to be imbued with Bactru's spirit. Lucic, the Cave Mother. While Grooms is the external force that pushes the orcs to victory over their enemies, it is the influence of Lucic, his wife, that binds them together and makes the orcs internally cohesive. She is the force that keeps the explosive rage of Grooms from bursting the orcs apart. If it was not for the followers of Lucic, it is impossible that the race of orcs would be no more than a small band of warrior nomads, scratching out a meager existence rather than a force capable of great destruction. Far from the dense war hearth, within the protective depths of the caves, the followers of Lucic tend to the orc brood, raising them to be strong and cruel like their progenitors. By invoking the power of superstitions, omens, and traditions, these claws of Lucic hold the tribe together through ritual, fear, and, if necessary, force. Talons of the Bear. Lucic is often thought to take the guise of an enormous cave bear. Her followers honor this aspect of her by keeping cave bears as pets to guard the whelping pens that are filled with scrabbling young. Lucic's devoted also grow their claws long and paint them black to mimic the fearsome talons of their goddess. Lucic rewards them by making their claws as strong and tough as iron. Holding the fort. Along with protecting the young and the tribe's food stores, the worshippers of Lucic also serve as the crafters, engineers, and builders of an orc tribe. They fashion crude weapons, armor, and the few manufactured items that the orcs need for daily life. When the tribe is away on raids, they are expected to dig deeper into the caverns of the den to create more living space for the ever-increasing population. Utrus, the White Hand. Utrus is often depicted as consumed by rot and covered in oozing pustules, utterly repulsive except for his hands, which are pure white and free of any blemish. Utrus has no mouth and never utters a sound, so that he may come in absolute silence for his chosen. The followers of Utrus are allowed to dwell on the fringes of the tribe, but are looked upon with distaste and unease. They interact with the tribe mostly on occasions of death, claiming the bones of fallen warriors to add to the ossuary shrines of Utrus, and sometimes during shamanic rites when contact with spirits occurs. The The White Hands. Shamans who heed the telepathic whispers of Yurtrus walk the perilous line between the living and the dead and gain uncanny powers from doing so. Through this non-verbal communion, they begin to comprehend how to use the magic of death. These shamans, known as White Hands, cover their hands in white ash or wear pale gloves made of elf skin to symbolize their connection to the power of Yurtrus. The necromancy practiced by the shamans of Yurtrus is a force considered taboo by orcs, which makes them both revered and feared by the rest of the tribe. Traffickers of the Dead. Orcs who die a good death are sent to Grooms by the priests of Yurtrus. The priests seek out the bodies of such fallen heroes and sever their heads, boil or smoke them to rid them of most of the flesh, and then use a ritual punch to break out the bridge of the nose and leave the skull with a single eye. Orcs that appreciate the strength and ferocity of the foe might choose to honor that enemy by giving it the same treatment. The bodies of orcs that die in a failed battle are left behind. They are weak and don't deserve to join Grooms. Those that die of old age have typically already been taken into Yurtrus' fold, and their bones are used to build furnishings and structures in the area of their lair dedicated to the worship of Yurtrus. Chosen of Yurtrus. Orcs that suffer from gruesome disease are brought into Yurtrus' fold and tended like prized cattle. These orcs are called nurtured ones, and they are considered the chosen of Yurtrus because they have been picked for the special purpose of spreading his virulent message from among the enemy. At night or during a heavy fog, these infected orcs rush towards an enemy's encampment, often through a hail of arrows, in order to spread their affliction within their foes' ranks. Shagras. Oh no, Shagas, the Night Lord. Shagas is a god of darkness and the unknown. He is a secretive and murderous deity, dangerous to all except Grooms. His realm is the darkness that no creatures but those devoted to him can see through. To other orcs, the followers of Shagas are depraved and twisted creatures that have no honor and skulk in the shadows. Rejected by Yurtrus as too unsuitable to serve as custodians of the dead, these orcs live even deeper inside the lair, close to where the entrance to Shagas' realm is located. There in the darkness, orcs exiled to meet their fate are either brought into the fold as members of the tribe's Shagas cult, or are torn to pieces and devoured as sacrificial tributes by the worshippers of the Night Lord. Culling the Weak. Although most followers of Shagas are exiles living in the farthest reaches of the lair away from the rest of the tribe, others remain within the main body, posing as ordinary warriors. These agents single out the weakest members of the fighting force, because removing these weak links strengthens the rest of the group. Soon after being born, an orc must be able to show that it will grow into a capable warrior, or else it will be visited by the cultists of Shagas. The cultists also waylay orcs that have proved themselves ineffectual in leadership or combat, then drag them into Shagas' dark caverns to be ritually murdered and devoured. This culling of the weak and the unworthy is accepted as necessary by the tribe, but speaking about it is taboo. Those that disappear are simply said to be with Shagars and are spoken of no more. Alliance of convenience. When faced with a particularly skilled foe able to withstand direct assaults, a war chief might call upon the cultists of Shagars to assassinate an enemy leader, kidnap an influential hostage, or steal a valuable item. Grooms doesn't always look kindly on acts of subterfuge and indirectness, because orcs are meant to take and do what they want through straightforward assault and brutality. Nonetheless, when the chief seeks the aid of Shagars to accomplish such a task, the leader of the cult is willing to comply, for a price. In exchange for its less than honorable services, the leader will strike a deal with the war chief to provide food, tools, slaves, or some other commodity that the cult prizes. Let's move on to the next section. Life in the tribe. Orcs survive through savagery and force of numbers. Theirs is a life that has no place for weakness, and every warrior must be strong enough to take what is needed by force. Orcs aren't interested in treaties, trade negotiations, or diplomacy. They care only for satisfying the insatiable desire for battle, to smash their foes and appease their gods. Booming birth rate. In order to replenish the casualties of their endless warring, orcs breed prodigiously, and they aren't choosy about what they breed with, which is why such creatures as half-orcs and augrelons are found in the world. Females that are about to give birth are relieved of their other roles and taken to the lair's whelping pens, where they are tended to by Lucic's followers. Orcs don't take mates, and no pair bonding occurs in a tribe other than at the moment when coupling takes place. At other times, males and females are more or less indifferent toward one another. All orcs consider mating to be a mundane necessity of life, and no special significance beyond that is imparted to it. At 4 years old, an orc is considered a juvenile, and by age 12, it is fully functioning adult. Most orcs don't live past the age of 25 due to battle or illness, but an orc can live to about 40, remaining healthy almost up until the end. Lucic's divine blessing can further extend an orc's life, though Grooms is never happy when she uses this power and tends to frown upon the one so blessed. Future warriors. Young orcs must mature quickly in order to survive their perilous upbringing. Their early years are fraught with tests of strength, fierce competition, and nothing in the way of maternal or paternal love. From the time a child can wield a stick or a crude knife, it asserts itself and defends itself while learning to fight, to survive in the wild, and to fear the gods. The children that can't endure the rigors of a life of combat are culled from the main body of the tribe, taken into the depths of the lair and left for the followers of Utrus or Shagars to accept or reject. A fully grown orc warrior is well prepared for a lifetime of combat. Search, destroy, repeat. When a tribe is on the move, orc warriors are commanded to scour the surrounding landscape for any opportunity to spill blood and bring glory to their gods. Often, bands of warriors work on a rotation, with one group heading out on a raid just as another returns, laden with severed heads, sacks of loot, and armfuls of food. Warriors also serve as scouts, bringing back detailed reports about the surrounding area so that the chief can plan where to send raiders next. The territory that orc war parties cover can extend for many miles around the lair, and any encampment or settlement of elves, dwarves, or humans in that area is at risk. If orcs come upon a target that is too large to assault directly, they will lurk along supply routes, taking out their frustration on caravans and travelers. Left unchecked, a tribe can subsist on this sort of prey and booty for quite some time. War wagons. Orcs pillage and scavenge wherever they go. Everything is loot, and loot is always something to be proud of. In order to haul as much loot and booty as possible back to the tribe's den, every tribe has a sturdy war wagon. Since orcs are poor crafters, most of their wagons are stolen from human or dwarven strongholds, and then decorated with uniquely orcish accessories. A war wagon is a source of great pride for a war chief, comparable to a human army's banner or flag. Many are clad in armor and festooned with garish trinkets and grisly trophies that hang from hooks and spikes. A war wagon makes a good shield against arrows when orcs besiege an elven fortress, and a heavily modified wagon could serve as a battering ram if a settlement dares to close its gates, blocking the way to the treasures and tasty food that lie within. A heavily laden wagon that requires the strongest orcs to return it to the lair is a sign of great success. One that can be moved by the runs of the tribe is proof of a shameful performance. The loss of a tribe's war wagon can undermine the chieftain's authority and cause the tribe to collapse into chaos, with the survivors scattering either to join new tribes or to strike out on their own. At the other extreme, warriors that return home with a heavily laden wagon, or after heroically defending it from thieves, gain great respect and advance higher in the tribe's pecking order. All are fighters. Most of the orcs that stay behind when the warriors go on their raids are weaker than their tribe mates, or otherwise not suited for a life of battle. Worshippers of Lucic fall into this category, as do some of those that revere Utrus or Shagas. But even these orcs are trained in combat, and all of them are expected to act like warriors if the lair is attacked or threatened. Their numbers are augmented by any Orcs in the tribe, which are primarily responsible for making sure that the lair is protected from intruders. Special enemies. When orcs attack a settlement of humans or halflings, they will kill anyone who presents a threat, but they are more interested in grabbing plunder and food rather than in wanton slaughter. The elderly, children, and any who seem weak or meek enough might escape death. If they leave the population more or less intact, the orcs leave themselves the option of returning to raid the community over and over. When orcs fight elves, all that changes. The enmity between the two races cuts to the core, and no orc will leave an elf alive. Orcs become so frenzied in combat against elves that they forget all about taking loot and valuables back to the tribe. The only trophies of any worth are the heads of their enemies. Orcs treat dwarves somewhat differently from other foes, because they covet the homes that dwarves fashioned for themselves. If a tribe succeeds in fighting its way into the dwarf hold, the orcs will butcher any dwarf that stands against them, but it's really all about the property. They would be just as happy if all the dwarves ran away. Strength respects strength. Orcs appreciate physical prowess and formidable combat ability in any form. As such, they might accept other creatures into their ranks from time to time. Orcs have been known to associate with werebores and ettins, both creatures that can markedly improve a tribe's murderous efficiency. For a promise of sufficient food and loot, a troll might accompany a tribe temporarily. A group of orcs can be dominated by evil creatures of immense power, and they accept their subservient role either because they are forced to, or because it offers them a measure of security while they engage in their savagery. Green dragons, for instance, sometimes use orcs as sentinels or shock troops. Orcs are sometimes attracted to the service of frost giants or fire giants, who then reward their loyalty by turning them into slaves. If a tribe is defeated and driven from its lair, the survivors might come under the sway of a strong but dim-witted creature, such as a hill giant or an ogre. It is also not unheard of for an exceptionally strong and charismatic evil human to lead stray orcs that no longer have a tribe to call their own. When tribes team up, an orc tribe typically has no more than a few hundred members, because a larger group would need a prohibitive amount of resources to remain strong. As a rule, a tribe is violently hostile towards any other tribe it meets, seeing the rival orcs first and foremost as competitors for food and victims. On some occasions, though, tribes that have a common concern band together. The result is an orc horde, a sea of slavering killers that washes over the countryside and leaves vast tracts of devastation in its wake. Such an event is rare in the extreme, but its consequences can lay low entire nations that are unable to stand against the wave. The next section is called Orc Culture and Beliefs. Orcs live in constant fear of their gods, and their behavior is rooted in that mentality. They believe that they can see the influence of the gods everywhere in the world around them, and the priests of a tribe are entrusted with the responsibility of identifying these signs and omens, both good and bad, and deciding how the tribe should react to them. As a race, orcs have no noteworthy universal social traits, but some commonality does exist in the crude written communication that all orcs employ and in the way that they use pigments to decorate and distinguish themselves and their lairs. Omens and Superstitions. Orcs believe that any seemingly unimportant discovery or event, a bear's claw marks on a tree, a flock of crows, or a sudden gust of wind, might be a communication from the gods. If the tribe has encountered a similar omen before, the priests understand how to interpret it, but if a sign from the gods has no clear explanation, the priests might have to meditate for hours or days to get a vision of its meaning. Every group of orcs has particular superstitions and recognizes certain omens. These tenets vary from tribe to tribe and are often based in events that the tribe has experienced. Here are a few examples. If a dwarf or human invokes its god upon dying, you must carry the corpse's ears for 3 days to ward off any retribution, and then bury or burn them. 3 ravens is always a good sign. It is good luck to spit where you are about to sleep. Gnome bones can ward off diseases if they are worn. Don't stand inside a ring of stones, mushrooms, or any other kind of circle. Seeing a shooting star before a battle is bad luck. To ward it off, you must swallow a stone. A tribute of elf ears brings favor from Grooms. If you bury 5 stones at dawn before a long journey, you will always find your way back to the war hearth. Stomping your foot 3 times and uttering Grooms wards off bad magic. Symbolic Communication. Orcs have a written language adapted from that of the dwarves, but they aren't a literate culture and rarely keep records or write down their thoughts. When orcs need to communicate in writing, they use crude symbols to convey basic information such as food stored here, danger close, or go this way. An orc raiding party might leave such a sign in its wake as an aid to other warriors that travel through the same area later on. Mountain guides, druids, and rangers might be familiar with many of these symbols, enabling them to keep their charges from inadvertently stumbling into a tribe's territory. Colors of Conquest. 3 colors have special meaning to all orcs, and they adorn their bodies, possessions, and lair with pigments that produce those hues. Red ochre is used to represent blood, grayish-white ash to represent death, and charcoal to represent darkness. The unwritten laws that govern the status of individual orcs within a tribe are manifested to a degree in how each orc uses these colors on itself and its personal items. For instance, the chief of one tribe might be the only one that has the right to stain its tusks with red ochre, while the warriors of another tribe rub streaks of ash into their garments to signify their safe return from a raid. Role-playing an orc. Most orcs have been indoctrinated into a life of destruction and slaughter, but unlike creatures who by their very nature are evil, such as gnolls, it's possible that an orc, if raised outside its culture, could develop a limited capacity for empathy, love, and compassion. No matter how domesticated an orc might seem, its bloodlust flows just beneath the surface. With its instinctive love of battle and its desire to prove its strength, an orc trying to live within the confines of civilization is faced with a difficult task. I'm going to skip the tables of flaws and bonds and ideals and skip directly to the half-orcs. The law of humans depicts orcs as rapacious fiends, intent on coupling with other humanoids to spread their seed far and wide. In truth, orcs mate with non-orcs only when they think such a match will strengthen the tribe. When orcs encounter human, that's supposed to be humans, I think. I found a typo. When orcs encounter humans who match them in prowess and ferocity, they sometimes strike an alliance that is sealed by mingling the bloodlines of the two groups. A half-orc in an orc tribe is often just as strong as a full-blooded orc and also displays superior cunning. Thus, half-orcs are capable of gaining status in the tribe more quickly than their fellows, and it isn't unusual for a half-orc to rise to leadership of a tribe. Aurochs. Orcs believe that an Auroch's exceptional strength and intelligence are a gift from the goddess Lucic, to ensure that their brood survives and flourishes. So when an Auroch is born, a tremor goes through the tribe, for the event is seen as a great blessing from the goddess, but it brings tension as well. An Auroch within the tribe poses a potential problem for an Orc war chief. Will the Auroch grow up to be a powerful ally or a dangerous adversary? Most war chiefs treasure their positions so highly that they would refuse to relinquish the title, even to a clearly superior creature. Thus, a chief might be tempted to kill the Auroch while it is still young and weak, but such an act would most certainly incur the wrath of Lucic. To raise an Auroch within the tribe, from the chief's point of view, is to take a risk that the Auroch won't one day rise up and usurp power from the chief. Because of this sentiment, Aurochs are secreted away by priestesses of Lucic and raised out of the sight of the chief. Keeping the balance. What most war chiefs don't realize or trust in is the fact that Aurochs aren't a direct threat to their rule. By nothing more than their presence, Aurochs serve as a balancing force. Indoctrinated by the priestesses of Lucic, they see to it that Lucic's followers are protected from the more aggressive members of the tribe. Most Aurochs don't go on raids because their main responsibility is the safety of the tribe members that remain in the lair. Ensuring that the tribe remains intact even if a raid goes badly and many warriors are killed. In times of internal strife, such as after the death of the chief, Aurochs move into oversee the selection of a new leader and keep the tribe from splintering due to infighting. Aurochs strive not to lead their tribe, but to keep their tribe together, which is often the more difficult of the two tasks. Breaking the mold. An Orc lives on the edge of chaos and rage, and Aurochs are no exception. At times, an Auroch goes rogue and becomes a force of destruction in the tribe, seeking to fracture the group along lines of loyalty to the gods, of those who worship Lucic and those who worship Grooms. If those who worship Lucic and those who worship Grooms split, the tribe can be torn apart by the schism. At the other extreme, an Auroch might accept a role in battle or leadership under special circumstances. If a tribe finds itself up against formidable or unexpected resistance, the endurance and superior intellect of an Auroch serving as chief or battle master can be enough to win the day when a less capable leader would have failed. Tanarux. A Tanarux is an abyssal creation infused with demonic power. Half demon, half orc, it wanders the world in a murderous haze. Its dimly glowing red eyes burn under thick horn-like brows, and its tusks and claws are razor sharp. Because the skin of Tanarux is unnaturally tough, they rarely wear armor, preferring to rush into battle unencumbered, smashing their foes with a demon-forged maul or tearing them apart. A Tanarux is spawned when an Orc tribe turns away from its god and makes sacrifices to the demon lord Baphomet. The lords of the abyss are always eager to claim more followers, and the violent Orcs are prime candidates for corruption. A tribe pushed to the edge of destruction, its faith in its deities shattered, might beseech Baphomet to bless its next generation of warriors. In so doing, Baphomet imbues the tribe's unborn with demonic might, yielding a generation of Tanarux. The Orc deities consider such a betrayal of their worship as a crime punishable by obliteration, and orcs faithful to their gods view Tanaruk's as horrid blasphemies that must be attacked on sight. On rare occasion, a non-orc that has gained control over a tribe performs a ritual to Baphomet in hopes of spawning Tanaruks to serve as a squad of shock troops. Only the strongest warlords and spellcasters can keep such a force in line, meaning that often the would-be conqueror is slain by its own creations. Orc lairs. An orc tribe needs a home base of sorts, a place where warriors can reconnoiter after a raid, and ideally also a site that can be easily defended to ensure the safety of the tribe's non-combatants. Orcs establish their encampment mainly in mountainous areas around and within deep caves or large crevices in the rock. Although they prefer such terrain for strategic purposes, they can adapt and thrive in almost any environment. Every encampment is divided along lines of worship. Those who revere Grooms, Ilneval, Bagtru, and Lucic are given the best parts of the lair, while the followers of Yurtrus and Chagas are relegated to the deep dark recesses of the site, away from the rest of the tribe. At the center of the camp is the tribe's war hearth. Once a war hearth is lit, the priests of Grooms keep it continually burning, for it represents the rage within Grooms' unblinking eyes. The orcs converge on the hearth to celebrate victory and to feast after a kill. If a tribe moves its camp, coals from the hearth are kept glowing within shells and pots, so they can be used to start the war hearth at the new encampment. Given a choice between occupying a site on the surface and one that is wholly or partly underground, an orc chieftain typically opts for the latter. I'm so sorry. If the surface location happens to be a ruin left behind by another race, orcs are more likely to use it as a temporary campsite. The ruins of elven settlements are the exception to this rule. If orcs come across such a place, they desecrate it and leave it unfit for any sort of habitation. A tribe uses its home base for as long as the resources in the surrounding area hold out. Enough food for the foragers and hunters, and enough victims for the warriors. The orcs might have to range farther and farther from their lair as prey becomes more scarce, and after a few months or a year or two, the tribe will be forced to move on and find more fertile hunting grounds. On occasion, a tribe finds itself in a best of both worlds situation, able to take over occupancy of an underground space voluminous enough to accommodate all the factions in the tribe, and within raiding distance of a steady supply of prey. The orc stronghold depicted and described here is an example of such a place, which could suit the needs of a tribe for several years or even decades. It has several subterranean chambers, conveniently configured to provide every group of worshippers with appropriate quarters, and it is accessible from the surface through only one well-guarded passageway. The main chamber. The warriors that worship Grooms and Ilneval occupy the main area of the complex. A large cavern that has the war hearth at its center and a shrine to Ilneval along the perimeter. The focal point of the shrine is a blood-covered sword mounted on the wall. The area also includes a pile of broken femurs that represents a shrine to Bagtru. The worshippers of Bagtru are mostly young, brash orc warriors, eager to prove their strength and bravery to the elders of the tribe. Even if space is available in the stronghold, they often live outside the entrance in crude bivouacs and roughshod fortification, protecting their elders by guarding the stronghold's vulnerable spot. Off to one side of the chamber, away from where the warriors are gathered, is the fighting pit, a sunken and fenced-off area where orcs settle their differences or engage in contests of strength. War Chief's quarters. Adjacent to the main chamber in the room where the War Chief resides, Adjacent to the main chamber is the room where the War Chief resides, holds council, and hands out blessings or punishments from Grooms. The best loot and trophies of triumph are piled in this room and considered to be the property of the chief. A fire, not as large as the war hearth, burns in its center. Next to the chief's enclosed sleeping area is a shrine to Grooms, consisting of a crude stone effigy of he who watches, surrounded by bloody offerings. Caves for followers of Lucic. Orcs who worship Lucic are sequestered in a cavern off the main chamber, where they protect the young and supervise food stores. These orcs take control of prisoners brought back from raids, using them as slave labor to dig out new living space and do other menial tasks. Most of Lucic's faithful reside in this area, close to the whelping pens, where young orcs are kept until they grow old enough to contribute to the tribe. When they are not being worked, slaves are housed in a small adjoining chamber and watched over by a group of cave bears that Lucic's worshippers keep as pets. Many of Lucic's priestesses have their quarters in a nearby cavern that holds the tribe's shrine to Lucic. She is represented by a crude stone statue with claws covered in charcoal and a body smeared with red ochre. Caves for followers of Utrus. Followers of Utrus reside on the threshold of where the deep area of the cavern system begins. They are the keepers of the dead, and the entrance to their realm is festooned with piles of bones and skulls. An altar to Utrus, made of stone with a hand painted in ash and tallow on it, stands in a cramped chamber apart from the main living area that is lined with skulls and bones. Caves for the followers of Jacques. Followers of Jacques dwell within the most remote area of the stronghold, immersed in darkness and feared by the rest of the tribe. The tribe's altar to Jacques is a blood-stained rock. The stronghold depicted in the map features a number of small passages that lead away from the depth of the lair and eventually provide egress to the surface. The members of the tribe's Jacques cult, which call themselves the Red Fang of Jacques, take advantage of these secret tunnels to raid the outside world and bring back prisoners. The members of the Red Fang use giant, carnivorous bats as mounts that allow them to gain silent access to any location. Those who think they can hide under cover of darkness or escape invisibly are easy marks for the Red Fang's bats, which locate their prey with high-pitched clicks and shrieks, then swoop down and snatch up their prey with razor-sharp claws. Bat riders of the Red Fang return from their raids the same way they exited, through a crack in the cliff face far away from their lair. A tunnel leads through layers of damp stone and crystallized minerals before eventually opening out into the subterranean domain. Captives are used as food for the brood of giant bats that roost in the rookery or are kept as slaves to be worked or used for barter. The next section is called Treasure. Orcs are consummate raiders. When they attack and overwhelm, they claim as booty anything of value that they can carry, and an orc's definition of value can be very loose indeed. The strongest or most dominant orcs will always claim the best loot after a successful raid, and since the pecking order in the group is almost always firmly established, there are usually no squabbles over who gets what. If the tribe's war wagon is available, it is used to transport large or specially treasured items. Each orc warrior carries its personal loot from the raid in a sack. These are the trophies of victory that orcs brandish and boast about when they return to the den. A loot sack might contain something of demonstrable worth or usefulness, something that's edible, or used to be, or something that was acquired at great risk. In any case, once the bragging is over, the loot is eaten, put to use, or otherwise disposed of. So much for lore and history concerning orc tribes. I hope you found this interesting, relaxing, hopefully not too enticing to make an orc tribe the next big evil villain in your campaign. Thank you very much for listening to me, and if you like this, maybe consider subscribing or leaving a comment. And I'm very much looking forward to reading to you again very soon. Have a good day or a good night. Bye bye, fellow nerds.